His was not a career of glamorous flight against glorious sunsets. He was the guy who showed the world how to organize and conduct massive airlift operations. In the early days of World War II, he took a chaotic aircraft delivery system and made it into, in effect, the world's largest airline. He tripled the amount of men and materiel the Army Air Corps carried over the hump into China. With nuclear war looming, he kept Berlin alive under Soviet blockade for 11 months, importing by air everything that millions of people needed to survive. And when North Korea invaded the South, he organized and commanded airlift for the Far East forces that prevented an American Dunkirk at the Pusan perimeter. Within a 7-year period, he had organized and managed 3 airlifts that changed history. He is Lieutenant General William Tunner, and he is a legend of air power. If I had to go anywhere, General William Tunner wrote, why of all places did it have to be the hump? The China-Burma-India Theater, as the hump was more formally known, was the closest thing the Allies had to the Germans' Russian front. It was the war's backwater, the hell, or at least purgatory, of jungles and impassable mountains. By keeping the Chinese army supplied and fighting, the over-the-hump flyers were tying up millions of Japanese troops who would otherwise be free to fight elsewhere. Tunner arrived in India in August 1944. He commandeered a C-46 and flew the route himself to see what his men were dealing with every day. For more than 3 hours, 550 miles each way, he and his crew flew over mountains pocked with craters from crashed transports. Tunner, who understood well how critical the hump mission was, brought with him a crack team of managers and engineers. They gathered performance statistics that showed where the problems were, the bases that need extra attention. They established maintenance centers that repaired planes on a kind of assembly line. And they upgraded search and rescue operations to the point where pilots knew that if they went down, they had a fighting chance of surviving. While his officers did all of that, Tunner himself went to work upgrading his command's living conditions. He discovered men who had served their tour but never been rotated out, and despite his desperate need of experienced crewmen, put them on planes headed for home. He looked out at his exhausted pilots, and he cut the number of hours they had to fly a month, which cut the rate of pilot error. He declared war on mosquitoes and had his men strip B-25s and fill them with pesticides to spray from above. Known among his men as Willie the Whip, he was a regular on all 19 bases under his command, setting higher and higher standards for everyone, whether a loadmaster or PX officer. He badgered Washington for supplies and was rewarded with fresh uniforms and toiletries so that his command could shed its disheveled appearance. And then he marched them every Saturday, turning a sorry lot of jungle loafers back into soldiers. The transformation was nearly miraculous. One base went from an average of 30 flights a day to 81. In September 1944, Tunner's first full month in India, his planes carried 22,000 tons over the hump. In November, it was 35,000. And by July 1945, it was more than 70,000 tons. To celebrate Armed Forces Day in August, Tunner's command orchestrated one of the most amazing feats in military history. Using C-46s, C-47s, and C-54 aircraft, planes barely larger than a modern commuter airliner, they flew 5,327 tons over the hump, an average rate of 1 plane load every 72 seconds. Winston Churchill, addressing the House of Commons, said this about Tunner's efforts in China. Certainly no more prodigious example of strength, science, and organization in this class of work has ever been seen or dreamt of.